What's up, boys? In this video I will be breaking down Parádeisos, which is my latest release I've put out, and I will be going into detail on how I created the track. It will be pretty in-depth, showing all the automations and stuff. So I hope you guys learned something new in this video, and I hope this inspires you to create your next banger yourself. And also I wanted to share that I will be sharing the project files of this track on my Patreon, which will be linked in the description down below. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So, to begin, we will start with the vocal. This vocal actually is a vocal I chopped up, and here I have the original open.
Into paradise.
As you can hear, I chopped it up quite a bit. I only used the Into Paradise of the vocal, and I chopped it up on tempo, pitched it down so it matches the key of the track. And afterwards it's on to processing. So I started off with a plugin called Jam Voice, which is basically an all-in-one vocal processing plugin, as I want to call it. So I used the preset on there, which is Joe Barazzi, Bright and Clear. So the preset says itself, makes the vocal a bit more brighter and clearer. Afterwards I EQ'd some more of the low end. I sidechained it. This is not 100% because I do not want it to be fully bounced, but I want it to be a bit bounced. Sidechaining is up to taste. We also have a spectral resonator, and this is actually what makes the vocal super interesting in the build-ups. So let me open the automation tab with the A button. As you can see here, I am automating the dry wet of the spectral resonator on the build-up. Into paradise, into paradise, into paradise. By doing that, it creates this robot-like of feeling. It's just a super nice effect for the build-up. And also I had to do that I had to keep it interesting because I use the vocal throughout the whole track. It's a very loopy vocal, so I needed to make it more interesting, and this was a way to do it. Also, to put on the note, put it on the frequency or the root note of your track, which was D for me. And yeah, after that, automate away and create some interesting effects with the spectral resonator. After that, I also EQ'd it again, boosting some more of the highs and cutting some more of the lows, because after the spectral resonator I felt like that was needed. And afterwards we have an ozone imager, which is for the stereo field. I really made it a lot more mono because I thought the vocals was too wide and I wanted a bit more of a mono signal vocal. You can see this here. Into paradise, into paradise. And if I were to put it on fully mono, into paradise, into paradise, you see the signal is just a straight line on the stereo spectrum. So I just did a bit of stereo reduction on the vocal. Onto the group of this vocal. This is where I do the automations, mostly reverbs and EQs. Also on this group I have my standard reverb Valhalla at 15% to put the vocal in some sort of space. Without it, it sounds really dry, but it's not at 100%, so it doesn't sound super wet. So yeah, after that I'm using Fusion Field, which is also a plugin I'm using to automate the reverb on the build-up to make it more interesting. You can do this with any reverb type of plugin. I just liked the way it sounded, and I think I saw it on a video that they used this plugin, so I wanted to check it out. So after that we have our low cut, which I'm also automating in the build-up, as you can see here. And afterwards we also have a high cut, which I'm also automating during the build-up or during the breakdowns. So a lot of automation going on the vocal, just to keep it interesting. It moves a lot with the track, and I needed to do that because elsewise the vocal would sound super loopy, as I mentioned before. So that's it for the main vocal. Now we also have this little yeah one shot that plays on an offbeat. This is just a one shot where I added 25% of a ping pong delay, and I just put it on there to make it more interesting. Again, a nice touch to the vocal if we play it together. Into paradise, into paradise, It just adds this nice touch to the full vocal loop. And I also made sure this yeah shot is super wide, again with the Ozone Imager. I made it super wide, but I like actually super wide. It's too wide actually, but I like the way it sounded. But I kept the dry signal, which wasn't as wide as that, and I put it on a layer, so it's actually a parallel FX, as I named my rack like this. But this keeps the dry signal at 100%, and then you just blend into taste. So if I put it super wide, like that's too much, only at minus 27 dB, and that was like the sweet spot for me. Other than that, just some gain automation during the build and the break. And on this group, again, we have an automation that's present on the breakdown and the build-up. And also on here, we have a reverb that puts this sample into a nice space, just at 11%. That's pretty much it for the vocals. There isn't more to it than I just showed you. Pretty simple. Just a nice sample I found, and just flip it and let your creativity speak for itself. Pitch it down, cut it up, make it fit to your tempo or your groove. You can play around with the vocals as much as you want, because in modern dance music, who doesn't love a nice loopy vocal that they almost can't understand? So yeah. Anyways, on to the bass. This is probably the most simple thing. You won't believe it. But on here we have our low end, and here we have our kick and our bass. And for the kick, this is actually just a kick without anything, just a plain sample, which I then consolidated to make my life easier. But yeah, just a kick. And for the bass, we have two layers. We have our sub layer, which I resampled out of another track, and then cut all the highs up until 170. I just like the way the sub sounded on a certain track. I really can't remember which one it was by name. But yeah, just to resample the low end. I mean, no one can tell this is from another track. This is just a sub bass note hitting. But I layered it with a mid layer. And this is what makes the bass super gnarly. This is just an Evo Sounds preset. Shout out to my boy Zenworld. Best presets there are. And I don't think I used it as it came. I think I modulated a bit of these here. Maybe I changed the envelope a bit so it fits more to the track, so it's really plucky. Afterwards, I just EQ'd it, cut a bunch of the lows at the same point as I cut the highs on the low end sub. And I also cut some high frequencies because I want to preserve these for my drums. So the bass is together. Really gnarly, really punchy. And on the bass group, we have some saturation to glue them a bit together. And also we have our automation of the EQs. This EQ8 just automates every 8 bars or so, just cutting out the lows, if I can see. Yeah, that's here. And also we have this auto filter that just cuts the high frequencies to make a transition a bit more smooth. Also on the kick, the same EQ, but I don't think it's exactly the same. This one is on 108 and this one is on 137, but it's the same principle. When the bass is cut, I also cut the kick from the low end. And on the low end buzz, we also have an automation for some low frequency cutting, but I don't think it's over here. So yeah, it's mostly in the build up to just get it out there. The drop is coming. So actually just pretty much a lot of EQing. And then we have our Sub Ninja, probably one of my most favorite plugins to use for low end production. I'm also a DJ and I love looking at waveforms, so maybe we should take a bass part. So here you can see on the top, don't look at the bottom one, at the top is the lower frequencies from 0 to 100 Hertz. So I look at this waveform to check if my bass and kick really work well together. You don't want your peak of your bass going above the kick, because I personally want, and I think most in dance music want their kick to be the loudest of the track. And yeah, Sub Ninja really helps to achieve that visually. It's really helpful. So yeah, that's actually it for the bass. Not much to it. Very simple, very punchy, and present. On to the harmonies. Also not a whole lot in here. We have our pluck that comes in at the 16th bar mark of the first drop. And it sounds like this. This is also a Zen World preset. I took this preset from, I don't know which pack it was, but any of the Evo Sounds packs. I have them all. These are my favorites. Here you have them. It's on pack number 6, Evo Sounds Deceiver 6, Plastic Sauce. It's a pretty simple sounding sound, but he has these modulators that you can automate during build-ups, during breaks, during the drops even, to make it a lot more interesting. And that's what I did. I took these macros and I automated them during the build-ups and the breaks. So you hear it really makes a difference in your track. Automation is key. Also some volume automation on there. An EQ to cut the lows again. And here we have our parallel FX. Why parallel? Because I wanted to keep the dry signal as strong as possible. So on the other chains we have a reverb and a delay. Let me solo these for you. So that's the reverb, and also we have a delay. And altogether it really adds to the atmosphere of this sound. Without the FX it wouldn't be the same sound. So dare to be creative with delays and reverbs, but be careful, you don't want to overdo it on them. And also we have some sidechaining with Shaper Box, only at 58% because it's not the sound you want to sidechain so much, for me personally at least. So that's it for the lead sound, and I also have one last reverse swell to emphasize the transitions. This is actually just a stab sound I found on a sample pack on Splice, I think, and I just reversed it. Let me reverse engineer it for you. So press R to reverse it. I warped it, so I put warp mode on. Oh dang! So this was the original on complex, and I put it on texture mode. I shift and I click and stretch it out. I press R to reverse. And it just adds this nice texture if it's on texture mode. I mean, that's what it's supposed to do, I think. But really, just a very simple step sound I found on Splice or the sample pack. Reverse it, stretch it out, put it on texture mode, add a ton of reverb on there. I mean, really a ton. Nice. That's really nice. So yeah, that's it for this sound. It really emphasizes the transitions, which I will cover on the FX tab again. But first we go and move on to the drums. On the drums, we start with, or let me first demonstrate the full bus to you guys. Pretty straightforward hats and a clap, nothing much really. At the hat bus we have our open hi-hat, which we layered. We have a high-end sounding hi-hat and a bit more of a low body type of hi-hat, together with a bit of saturation on the group bus, and we have a really nice thick sounding hat. I only use these in the drop together, as I use the high-end hi-hat in the build-up only, just to make it a bit more interesting when the drop comes. As for the hi-hat bus, again, on the bus some automation of volume, again automating everything I can: volume, reverbs, delays, EQs, filters, everything you can make your song go to life with. Automate it, man. So that's it for the hi-hat. I also have a clap on here. Whoops. So we have the clap. Actually, this clap was sounding like this. I really like the beginning sound of the clap, so I cut it until the beginning. Put it in mono. Pitched it down one semitone because it sounded better like that. Also something you can try out on all your drum samples. Pitch it up one or pitch it down one, and see how it sounds. Maybe it fits your track, maybe it doesn't, but it's worth to try. If you don't try, you will never find out anything. Onwards to the group of the clap, a bit of saturation to make the sound pop a bit more, and here I used Pro R2 reverb because I knew a preset for the snare that I liked. A bit of a lazy development, but yeah, if it sounds nice, if you know a preset, just use it, man. Don't be shy to use them. There will always be producers that are like, oh my god, you only use presets and samples, and oh man, they should have known better. Anyways, moving on, we have our top layer, or actually I forgot the hat loop that actually drives the song. So for the hat loop, actually a pretty simple hat rhythm, 16 notes playing. I found this on Splice, I think, and I made it a bit more mono. I thought the sample was too wide, so I dimmed it down a bit. I sidechained it to the hat, because I don't want them to clash in frequencies, as this plays the same frequencies as these. So I sidechained it to the hat every time the hat plays this ducks, and I EQ'd it, also removing a bit of the super high frequencies, as I want them to pop on the hi-hat, on the offbeat hi-hat, and not on the hat loop. I also have a shaper box on here. This time it's not for sidechaining, but it's for panning. It's only on 26%, but if you listen closely, you'll hear the hi-hats going from left to right a bit, so it keeps it a bit more interesting. But that is the full hi-hat bus, together with the claps. A very solid groove right there. And lastly, from the drums we have our tops, which is only a ride, and this ride has some reverb that's automated during the last section of my drop, and also is being pitched down in the sampler. Let me show that. If we go to envelopes on the sample, go to clip, go to transposition. You will see here that after half the sample, I pitch it down 12 semitones. Let me demonstrate that. A pretty nice effect to emphasize the last part of the drop as we are going into the breakdown. If you want to hear that in context, let me put on the vocal, the low end, the harmonies, and the drums. It just adds to let the listener know we are entering a new part of the song. So yeah, that's the rides. And the last thing I have on my drums is the break beat, which is happening in the break. This is just a sample I found on Splice, and I sidechained it to the kick and the clap, and I EQ'd it, removed a bunch of the lows, I made it less wide, but pretty much not none there, just a plain sample from Splice. This makes a nice effect on the breakdown with a layered clap on there. Let me go to the part where there isn't a filter. And on this bus, I automate a delay, as you hear. Also to make it more interesting as it goes into the build-up again. Also automating some reverb from Valhalla again, and automating auto filter by removing or adding the lows. So yeah, pretty much nothing much to the drums, not too complicated. We only have some hats, a clap, and some interesting breakbeat in the breakdown. And to boost the energy, we have a ride. So pretty much pretty simple. Onto the drum bus. The drum bus, we have our Knock plugin, which is one of my favorite plugins out there. Knock. It's an all-in-one drum plugin, or maybe sometimes you can use it for other things as well. But for me, it's good for drums. I like it on my drums, and it just makes sure that my drums really cut through the mix and that these transient really pop. Also, it saturates my drums so they are more cohesive and they have a bit of the same coloring. I don't use the sub, I don't use the air, and I also clip my drums so I gain a lot more headroom. Other than that, I didn't do much really than automation again, and the builds and the breaks. As you can see here, I'm automating the reverb and the build-up. Also automating the gain, that the drums are gone. And then when the drop hits, they're fully back. Nothing much really to the drums. Pretty simple, some hats, some claps. As I said before. And also we have a snare build, and I don't put this in my drum bus because I feel like for me it's another element, but it's actually a drum. But for me it's more like an FX and a drum, but I don't want to put it in either of those buses. I just created a separate snare build bus. So yeah, on the snare build we have our casual snare sample. Fun thing on this snare, I use a vocoder on the build-up, and what does this vocoder do? It actually adds a bit of white noise to the build. And if we remove it, you know, it's just that extra touch on the snare build that gives it away. But anything on there, not really, not much as well. This track is actually pretty simple, if I say so myself. But on the snare build, again, automation. Automation is key to everything to make your track interesting and come to life. Once again, go automate anything you can automate. Don't overdo it though, but like, just do it. But yeah, high cut, low cut, volume. I almost do this on every bus, I think. Volume automation, low end cut automation, high frequency cut automation. Last but not least, we have our FX bus, and on the FX bus, we have the most elements, I think, if we look at the rest of the track. So we have our standard crash, always slaps at the 1, and this makes sure that if we play it together with the drop, that crash just emphasized that the drop is there. Also, we have this white noise tab, just a nice little touch to the track, which is sidechained 100%, so it has this pump effect. We also have this string. This is playing in the root note of the track and only playing in the breakdown. This is low cutted as well. We have some volume automation on there, and this is sidechained to the kick. This is sidechained with a compressor because I was too lazy to automate the string. Next up, we have our alarm rise, which is just a Serum preset from Evo Sounds again. It's a nice addition to the FX, and yeah, it's just being automated with a pitch bend, so the longer it plays, the higher it pitches. Also, gain automation on this, and there's a shaper box on there for no reason. We also have some vinyl noise. This is just to add some texture to the whole track. I let this play everywhere. It's something you don't notice. It's like you're playing your track to an old tape machine or something. Next up, we have another riser. Which is actually pretty much a string, but I don't think it starts like that. Yeah. This is actually a preset that I re-recorded as I didn't want the reverb tail, and also again I was too lazy to automate the gain to 0 when it hit the mark pre-drop. So I right clicked on here and I freeze and flattened the track, which was first a MIDI in Serum, I think. And yeah, then you get your audio file, and I think sometimes it's much easier to work in audio files, especially when there's a lot of reverb on your MIDI. It makes your life a lot easier to just say like, boom, I want to cut there, it's gone. Next we have another uplifter, a riser. I think this is a white noise riser with a panning effect on the shaper box. That's what gives it that gritty effect. Yeah, it's playing on 132. Next up we have a transition effect. Not much on there, just a preset which emphasizes a new part of the track, as the element up top here in the harmonies does. It always plays together. Just makes a nice transition. Doesn't always have to be hard. And then last but not least, we have our atmosphere of the track. Just a splice sample cut up on the 1/4, I think. No, I'm wrong, on the 1 bar loop. And it just repeats itself. I put a shit ton of reverb on there, like 41%. And yeah, just other than that, automating the volume during the breaks and the builds. So it gets more intenser, or it gets more pushed to the back. And that was the last element of this track. If I have to summarize it all, this track is pretty simple. Less is really more in this track. I really don't have a lot of drums because 136 BPM is really fast already for house, and there isn't a lot of room to put elements in there. Less is more, and that's the message of this track. And last but not least, as a grand finale, I will show you what is on the master bus of this track. Yes, I mastered it myself. First up, we have our little sneaky volume automation. Just before the drop, we make it go -138. And when the drop hits, it's just that up a notch, 1 decibels, and it makes the drop smack harder in a way. So yeah, that's a nice little trick to make your drops hit harder without actually adding any elements. Next up, we have some taping. This is a very nice plugin I got from James Hype's videos. Just on 90%, it gives that extra crunch and tape feeling to the full track. Afterwards, we have some imaging to fix the stereo width a bit and shape it a bit, not too much, but yeah, just a little bit won't hurt. Afterwards, we have another clipper, so it won't go above 0 dB, as you see here, 0.1 actually. And last but not least, my limiter and my all-in-one nice sounding plugin, the God Particle. I've been using this very recently, and I really must say this has been a game changer for me. I really recommend you check it out. This is actually my mastering chain. It's as simple as that. It's a 5 dB limiter on there, and if I play the track, here you can see the parameters that I aim for in my track. I don't want to go above these because these are a standard of the plugin that gives you guidelines. Actually, it really helps on mixing into it as well. But yeah, this is actually the plugin I'm really using a lot lately, and yeah, I like it. So yeah, if it sounds nice, it sounds nice. Further than that, I only have some analyzing plugins to check the loudness of my track. I also have my span set up. These are both free plugins as well, and at the end we have our millimeters plugin. It's not on right now, but that's also a waveform visualizer, nothing that changes the sound or any effect. So yeah, that wraps up this track breakdown of Parádeisos. I hope you learned anything new. I hope you get inspired or got inspired to start creating your own bangers or start creating a new banger. And yeah, thank you for watching this video. I will link the project files down below if you want them. They're on my Patreon. The samples will be included. And again, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you guys next Sunday.